The Shariad Ki Sugmid Volume 2. Chapter 1. The Eternal Dreamer of VARDAN. In the beginning, it is said that the influence of the VARDAN on world history is, and has been enormous. But few other than the VARDAN Masters and few chelas have realized this. However, once the chela becomes a modis, an initiate of the fifth circle, he begins to realize the universal importance of VARDANKAR, not only in this world, but in all the worlds of the Hure. The non-initiates in this world are many, but those who have reached the fifth circle of initiation soon find that establishing themselves with the Hure is a rare thing indeed. The divine dreamer sends out its dreams to man via the Margatma, the Living VARDAN Master, in all its worlds to arouse souls in each individual in their sleep state to seek once again the heavenly kingdom. The call Niranjan sends forth its illusions via the negative channels to offset the divine dreams. It is hardly ever successful. Therefore, dreams are part of the emotional states of man. He lives either in the VARDAN emotions, but hardly ever in the neuter or the non-attached states, but the dream state is real to the true dreams of the modis, for the living VARDAN Master sees that it must be of truth. Few know and few believe that dreams are mainly of the emotional fabric of life. This emotional state is originated on the astral plane. Hence, the initiation of the first circle of VARDAN is that of the astral plane. Emotions are experiences, rather than behavior. As the material and mental scientists of the physical world have led man to believe, the mistake made in the world of physical science is that emotion is originated on the mental plane, and therefore subject to the realm of thought. This is not at all true, for emotion is not a mentalist phenomenon. Therefore, the VARDANist must work in the plane of feeling instead of thought, where the emotional state is concerned. Naturally, this is the force of the astral plane and nothing more. The VARDAN initiate knows that the emotional state is that by which the dream state finds its true nature in this world. Soul lives in the constant state of dreaming, for emotions are awareness on a certain level. This is the awakened state of the astral sense. And while within this state, one knows and realizes all perceptions in the astral world. The basic awareness, then, of the astral senses is emotion, and this is linked with instinct. The twin instincts of the emotional state are love and aggression. Both are consciously experienced in man. For every charge of either, and both are generated on the astral plane through feeling. Therefore, pain is the basic feeling. It is an astral emotion, which arises when the VARDAN force comes in contact with the call at a singular point in the body. This means then that emotions are aroused on the astral plane and sent through the physical body, making one aware of whatever has happened at any given point in the body. Thus the emotions build up vibrations, which are wave lengths of feelings. These vibrating rates are either speeded up or slowed down according to the energy charges of the instincts, which can be set in motion or relaxed in nature. The relaxed instincts, for peace of mind and heart, may be to the disadvantage of the chela, for this alone carries the responsibility of either accepting or rejecting the very knowledge that soul must follow the destiny of VARDAN, and this alone. The whole history of the physical universe is based upon the emotional state of man in the astral sense. This means that the civilization of those nations which have accepted the orthodox religious idea, that of the principle of man born in sin, and who could not be saved until the Savior made it possible, was able to create somewhat of a stability among the races. No pagan religion and culture could withstand the force of the idea of man born in sin, and who would never have any -8 release from it until he accepted the Messiah of his own people, according to the religions of the earth planet. But this idea was and has been established upon the premise of the call forces, and man, finding this is a false premise, has learned he is in a quagmire of troubles arising from a multitude of new ideas. One of these comes from the new values which man puts down as arising from the intellectual senses. The idea of man born in sin is one of the oldest pitfalls which the call Niranjan could plan for keeping soul in ignorance of its true glory. the pitfall that it must spend a certain amount of time and incarnations in this world, which it must do, regardless, in order to become purified to enter into the heavenly kingdom and become a co-worker with the Hure. All this must be found in the heart of the VARDAN, for that which is needed for true liberation is the Master, the initiation, and the sound current. This alone is the truth of the whole purpose of the Hure for soul's existence in the lower worlds. All the doctrines of man born in sin, to be purified by the appearance of a Messiah who dies for man's sins, is that of a holistic belief. Man is not saved, but soul is redeemed by the Margatma, the Living VARDAN Master. No other being is capable of giving soul true freedom after its multitude of incarnations spent on earth in search of redemption. There is no other way of redeeming soul's spiritual sanctity for entering into the heavenly states of the Hure. VARDAN is life, and life is VARDAN, and the Margatma, the Living VARDAN Master, is the way regardless of what is told in any religious scriptures. He is the transformer, the divine channel for the VARDAN. No religious faith can continue successfully unless it has a living master at the head of it. This master must be one who is adept at the spiritual truths, both in the physical form and that which is the inner self. He is both the outer master and the inner master. Unless one has come to the Living VARDAN Master and accepted him in complete faith during one's lifetime, he must serve many lives, meeting with the Margatma during each 9 life, searching, waiting for another golden opportunity to take up the path of VARDAN and to leave this world forever. The opportunity comes again and again for every individual soul who has spent time in this world. The Margatma has been with each soul time and again, but few accept him. They can neither see nor understand the divine glory which flows through him, which can take each into the heavenly worlds to live forever as soul. The rejection of the Margatma is sad indeed, for it means that the seeker must go on looking, reaching, and trying to find the heavenly path of VARDAN and the VARDAN Master who will take him into the kingdom of the Hure. But he seeks in vain, for there will never be anyone but the Margatma to give him life, to give him the way to the eternal source of all things. The VARDAN life makes no sense without foundations in the VARDAN doctrine and practices. Indeed, the whole thesis of the VARDAN chela's life is that he does in his own peculiar way what all VARDANists are called upon to do, that their vows are a specific way of carrying out the initiation promises, and that their community life is a particular manifestation of the life of the VARDAN, the body of the Margatma, of which they were made a member at the initiation of the first circle. Because the VARDANist believes that VARDANKAR is not an isolated sideline, but the working out in specific terms of the principles of human life. This means that the VARDAN chela's life is a particularly clear specification of spiritual existence, which of course is why it can be so completely satisfying at the natural human source, as well as the spiritual and supernatural levels, if the seeker is going to depend on some private revelation before making a decision to become a follower of VARDANKAR. He may risk waiting a long time. It does not work in this manner, for revelation in VARDAN usually comes at a time when he has entered into and become a part of VARDAN itself. Every chela in the works of VARDANKAR can or could have everything that he wants and needs in the material universe, except what he really wants and needs. The alternative, page 10, of any desire in this world is meager and not at all heartening. Thus symbolism is not a part of VARDANKAR, but that which is the importance in the true spiritual works. A physical action seldom symbolizes anything, for it is actually a simple action and nothing further. Personal feelings are hardly important in VARDAN. Whenever anything has to be done, the chela is the means to the end for the VARDAN, and the Margatma, the Living VARDAN Master, to use as the sub-channel in this world. The asanas, postures, and motions of the yogi, the rituals of the religions, and the genuflex and prayers of the metaphysicians are therefore useless. None touches the heart of the Hure, for it does not require worship and love, but faith, devotion and responsibility to its cause and principle, love and action are always secondary. There is an ancient principle in the world of religion that if one man's reputation dies for the people, then all the sins of society therefore can be made as white as snow. What a man's character has to do with the whole of the human race is hardly worth the trouble of dying for in all matters concerned for himself and others. The old feeling that one must do something for others is a negative idea which must be a part of the nature of the call force which works in him. It is only an aspect of the material world, and nothing can be settled unless the chela has the true enlightenment of the VARDAN. Until this is settled, nobody can expect anything from their religious inspiration and training. Being free from sin will not take anyone a step further on the path of God. It takes the Master, the sound current, and initiation to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Because of this, spirituality always looks like hypocrisy to the non-spiritual. Those who have had realization of soul know that the hure is. The fool is convinced that nothing greater than himself exists, but he who knows when he hears of it, he understands it, and whatever is understood exists in the understanding. Assuredly then that which exists as it is beyond all understanding, but whoever knows this realizes that the realization of it is not in understanding alone. Page 11. If it exists in understanding alone, then it could be conceived. Therefore, it is understood when the chela allows it to swallow him and digest him, when the chela lets himself surrender to it. It accepts him as a divine channel to be used in all the worlds of the universe. Nothing is more symptomatic than the gulf between faith and knowledge. The contrast is so enormous that the chela is often so amazed that he will completely drop out of the spiritual works of VARDAN. He is concerned with the materialistic world in which he lives, and also in the spiritual world of the second grand division. He finds that historically all the VARDAN Masters have existed throughout time within this world, some suffering and dying at the hands of their fellowmen, some working miracles and dying quietly, and others becoming well-known figures of their day who had indeed the confidence of the leaders of their time. The rupture between faith and knowledge is a symptom of the split consciousness which is characteristic of the mental disorders of the individual during any lifetime. It is as if two different persons were making statements about the same thing, each from his own point of view, or as if one person in two different frames of mind were sketching a scene of his experience. This is what is known as mental dissociation, a neurotic disturbance which has bothered practically every society known in the history of mankind, and the leaders within each social and racial group. When the collective dissociation exists within a race or social structure, then the spiritual works of VARDAN cannot penetrate the group in which it is a part. The work of the Margatma, the living VARDAN Master, becomes more difficult. The collective group is pulling apart because the individuals within the social order have established this dissociation within themselves. They go in all sorts of directions, and it is hard for the Margatma to get the message of VARDAN across because of this rupture between faith and knowledge. But once the Margatma can establish a bridgehead between himself and the people who are living in this state, it's found that the supremacy of the word, the VARDAN, which stands for the central figure of the VARDAN faith, takes hold and begins to heal this rupture. Page 12. The VARDAN chela enjoys a great advantage when it comes to answering the crucial questions which hang over every civilization since the beginning of time. All his experience flows from the hure, therefore he has a certain amount of spiritual experience in matters which lie beyond the range of human knowledge. But like most of those souls which venture into the heavenly worlds, he first has the transcendental problem with the God knowledge. Man confuses self-knowledge with the knowledge of his conscious ego personality. One who has ego consciousness at all takes it for granted that he knows himself, but the ego knows only its own contents, not the psychic self and its contents. Man measures his self-knowledge by what the average person in his social environment knows of himself. not the real spiritual facts, which are for the most part hidden from him. In a relative way, the psychic self of man behaves like the body with its physiological and anatomical structure, which the average person knows very little about. What is commonly called self-knowledge is therefore dependent on social factors of what goes on in the human mind. Hence, one is always coming up against the prejudice that negative things do not happen to himself, and on the other hand, one meets with equally illusory assumptions about the alleged presence of qualities or masters whom he believes are protecting him, but are merely rationalizations to cover up weaknesses and unhappiness in himself. This includes a broad belt of unconsciousness in man, which is defenseless to all sorts of influences and psychic inflections. One can guard against psychic inflections only when he knows what is attacking him. Self-knowledge is not of much use in this particular case because it is a matter of getting to know individual facts, and theories do not do much good in this respect. Most of man's ideas, knowledge, and fears are based upon theory, for he knows very little about himself despite all the scientific work done by the world scientists. When man accepts an idea and wraps around it emotions, such as the astral feelings, he is likely to establish a do or die feeling. This is the cause of martyrdom in man. He becomes infatuated, page 13, with an ideal that is religious or political and dies for it. If the occasion calls for such sacrifice, this is merely a state of loyalty which belongs to the astral plane world. It is the strength of man's feeling in his cause which brings about this sort of physical and useless death. The VARDAN Masters look upon this as suicide or self-destruction and shun it, for nothing seems less likely than to bring about their own physical death by some feelings of stubbornness which amounts only to astral emotions. There have been some deaths of VARDAN Masters which could be termed a martyrdom, but these are unusual cases. Generally, the VARDAN Master stays away from the issues of the day, which mix politics and religion. He teaches only the purity of the heavenly doctrine of VARDANKAR. He knows that many will be against him because of the stirring up of the call forces, but nothing seems to worry him in this respect. He artfully keeps away from the issues which bring on a confrontation with certain so-called authorities in the materialistic worlds. The teachings of VARDAN are the pure doctrine in this world. There are no others which can reach the same level as VARDAN. Therefore, the VARDAN Masters know that it is useless to argue and try to convince those who are not ready. Almost all orthodox religions and occultisms are only on the astral level. So the Margatma, the living VARDAN Master, will not allow himself to be drawn into any controversy over the orthodox religions and VARDAN. He knows that such arguments are foolish and nothing would be gained by anyone who is involved in them. The release of the chela from the wheel of life when he enters VARDANKAR is that point when he begins to accept and stops all his questions. The riddle of the question is forever plaguing the neophyte, for he never understands that no questions can be put without an answer. Yet all questions are on the mental level, but the answers are always available before the question. In other words, there are always the answers to the problems of life without the questions existing. It is the doubting which is in the mind of man which leads to questions. This doubt arises when there is a lack of confidence. Page 14. When asked how to deal with people who are skeptics and doubters, the living VARDAN Master says, I trap them. I get them where they cannot ask any more questions. When man cannot understand his problem nor something which is unfamiliar to him, he is doubtful and asks questions. He must live by established traditions and forms. He must follow out a unified pattern of behavior and live with others who do likewise. Otherwise, his whole pattern of life is upset. If he is living close to the source of the divine VARDAN, he might think in terms of not being able to do anything. This is because he is still living in the patterns and binds of society, and not able yet to break through the boundaries of liberation. All life, therefore, becomes an awareness of small things, such as being occupied with the things of the senses. He is aware of speaking, breathing, hearing, seeing, walking, testing, opening and closing the eyes. He should be beyond these things. For his attention must be put upon the greater reality of life. That of looking, knowing, and being, as long as the ignorance about the Margatma, the living VARDAN Master, prevails, the individual soul is constantly reborn into the world, rising or falling in fortune and station, according to its deeds and their consequences, which is karma. These are various levels above and below the physical world, through which the individual soul may pass in the course of its reincarnations. These are the psychic, the animal, mineral, plant, and the realm of ghosts. Until it awakens to full self-knowledge, soul may undergo reincarnations for amazingly long periods of time, touching the highest possibilities of pleasure and the lowest depths of pain, going round and round upon the wheel of samsara for thousands and perhaps millions of years, all the ways of liberation offered by the various orthodox religions generally must take soul through the endless cycle of reincarnation until it becomes awakened to its true self. But VARDAN gives the chela a concise way, which is not known in any other path to God. Once the chela steps out on the path of VARDANKAR, his karma begins to resolve and his reincarnations become less. When he is initiated, it means that never again will he have to return to this physical land. Page 15.